Right, so Keir Starmer's racism problems continue to worsen, as I highlighted in a video the other day, as the Traveller movement, a charity representing members of the Romani Gypsy, Roma and Irish Traveller communities, have pulled Keir Starmer up over the selection of Kim McGuinness, the current Police Crime Commissioner for Northumbria, to be their candidate for the North East Mayor post, given racist commentary she has made in the past, which she has never been held to account for, that we know of. Well, now she is being held to account, just not by Starmer. Not only have the Traveller movement written to Starmer demanding answers about this, but the wider community is now as well, especially given the reasons allegedly given as to why the successful incumbent North of Tyne Mayor Jamie Driscoll was deemed to not be good enough to represent Labour for this position now. Right, so Kim McGuinness, despite having made a racist tweet regarding the GRT communities all the way back in 2011, which she has never been held accountable for, despite being a Newcastle City Councillor and now the Police Crime Commissioner for Northumbria in the time since, and now hopes in future to be the North East Mayor, all representing the Labour Party, and never once, it seems, being questioned about that tweet. Because, of course, racism against the GRT communities is seen as the last acceptable form of racism in this country. It, of course, isn't. And it is way past time our politicians got their act together and stopped acting like some kinds of racism are more or less important than others. All racism is bad. It is all equally bad and should be treated with equal seriousness. Now, yesterday it is alleged in the Chronicle that Kim McGuinness has apologised for the offensive remark that she made, except they didn't deem it necessary to publish said apology. However, they did publish a comment from a Labour source. Yes, one of those again. That response reads, 13 years ago, in conversation with a friend, Kim used a term she'd never use now. She understands why this would be offensive to the Traveller community, and for this, she reiterates her apology. As a councillor and Police and Crime Commissioner, Kim has proactively campaigned against racism, promoted equality, and prioritised fighting hate crime. Well, as the Traveller movement letter to Keir Starmer stated, though, there is no record of a former apology, which the Chronicle claims she had already made at some point in the past. And we only have this Labour source's word that she has reiterated it, given nobody has publicly seen it. And let's face it, she caused offence to the GRT community. Should they at least not be able to see it? This should be a public apology. There is no evidence, however, that she has ever apologised. McGuinness was purportedly selected over the current North of Tyne Mayor, Jamie Driscoll, whose role is being amalgamated into this North East Mayor role. And despite him being enormously successful in that post, because he committed the heinous crime of sharing a stage with film director Ken Loach to talk about his latest film, The Old Oak, Loach had been expelled from Labour because he basically wouldn't roll over and condemn the proscribed group Labour Against the Witch Hunt, which stood against the purges of ordinary Labour members, overwhelmingly on the left, mostly on trumped-up charges as those against Driscoll and Loach themselves now show. Because Driscoll was overlooked for daring to share a stage and have a conversation about a film, and indeed had nothing to do with politics whatsoever. How can sharing a stage with Loach, not talking about politics, be a suspension or expulsion offence? It's like we're hearing now with the Jewish Labour movement allegedly demanding that anyone in attendance at the event where former Labour candidate for the Rochdale by-election Azhar Ali voiced his agreement with the Egyptian assessment of the events leading up to the night of October 7th in Israel be suspended just for being in the room with him. That is insane thinking. It is blatantly factional weaponisation of racism, in my opinion. It's nuts. Loach was expelled for daring to have an opinion too, that Starmer's Labour didn't like, and Driscoll replaces a candidate for sharing the same oxygen as Loach on one night. The reality is both Driscoll and Loach are of the left, are socialists, and Starmer's Labour wants such people out, and are prepared to trump up ridiculous notions in order to forward their thinking and their agenda. So in light of all of this, here is an infographic doing the rounds on social media, and it lists 17 questions that Keir Starmer now has to answer in relation to Kim McGuinness's alleged apology, and a whole lot more. McGuinness tweeted out in 2011 to a friend, lest we forget, in a now deleted tweet, F off, I'm not a gypsy. Therefore the questions put to Starmer read, do you agree that this tweet is racist? Do you have zero tolerance for racism? And if not, how much racism is acceptable? Would you accept this behaviour if I said, F off, I'm not a Jew? Why has the Labour Party failed to reply to any of the complaints made in July 2023? in relation to this. Why did your selection procedures repeatedly fail to detect this racist tweet, or did they detect it? When asked the standard question, have you done anything that could embarrass the Labour Party or bring it into disrepute, at every selection process, what was Ms McGuinness's answer? Does Ms McGuinness accept that her behaviour was racist? Why has Ms McGuinness failed to apologise in the 7 months since this issue gained prominence? Why does Labour's statement say Ms McGuinness has apologised when no record of this apology exists? If she did apologise, please state when and where and to whom. If she did not apologise, why did you say she did? Did she lie to you, or are you lying to us? Do you think that Ms McGuinness is an excellent candidate of the highest quality, as you said on ITV on the 5th of October 2023? Is this the standard of behaviour you expect from a serving Police and Crime Commissioner? Why was Councillor Niku Ion, a Roma councillor, blocked from the shortlist during the 2023 North East mayoral selection process? Do you think the EHRC should investigate this? Do you think Ms McGuinness's racist tweet is more racist, less racist, or about the same as talking to a filmmaker at an arts festival about an anti-racist film made in the North East? I think that does cover all the bases, don't you? It is notable that Ken Loach's film is an anti-racist piece about refugees arriving in the North East and the struggles to integrate into society that comes with that, challenging far too many mainstream narratives concerning refugees, not just in the media but politically as well. There was a Roma Labour councillor in the running at one point, but they got dropped at the shortlist stage, Niku Ion. And it does warrant questioning why that was, especially when one of the shortlisted candidates, Paul Brannan, apparently didn't even know he was standing for the post. Too much of this story smacks of Ion being there to meet the ethnic minority requirement, only to be ditched when that was met, and he was no longer needed. Another angle on that might come from the fact that Newcastle City Council, Labour run, has been urged to back a ceasefire in Gaza and has failed to do so, despite 7 Labour councillors there trying to make their party see sense, including Niku Ion. The list of questions should be on hand everywhere that Kim McGuinness turns, and everywhere Labour campaigns for her. They should be on the lips of every other candidate in the running for that post too, including Jamie Driscoll, who is now running as an independent. It should especially be a question that everyone, not just those in the GRT communities, but those supporting them too, should confront Starmer with wherever he goes. And Labour candidates on the doorstep at upcoming local elections, and of course the general election when it comes as well. Anti-GRT racism is no more acceptable than any other form of racism, and sadly Labour are very much still ignoring it. But then when it comes to racism in all manner of forms, unless it's anti-Semitism, it's what we expect from them now, isn't it? As for the Traveller movement's letter to Starmer and co and what they wanted answers to, I covered that here in this video if you care to find out more on this ongoing latest racism crisis for Labour, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers folks.